Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Press Talk Sports Live. I am your host, Jeff Weisinger, joined by the soon-to-be Liberty Union High School District Hall of Famer, the first esports person to be in the Hall of Fame, the man 20 Genesis champion, Juan Cebreiros. Welcome back.
I know, it's been a while. We've dealt with some sicknesses.
God.
Still are. But,
slowly we're slowly dying, I'm telling you.
You know,
As people's what it is, but we are pushing through. But joining us today, the new head coach of Liberty Boys Basketball, the state tournament-bound Liberty Boys Basketball team, the one and only Rich Morton. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate you.
Welcome to our humble commode.
Yeah.
It is low-key a mess.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate you being here. How you doing?
I feel good. Feeling really good.
So I'll start. We'll start because we only ask the hard-hitting questions only here. Mm-hmm. Are you ready for the godforsaken drive to Fresno?
Well, honestly, I don't think anyone is ready for that drive, but under the circumstances, it's something that we have to do. So we have to get our minds right. So we have to be ready. So I'll make sure I relay that to the kids today in practice and make sure their mindsets are ready. So, we'll be good to go.
When you saw the seedings come out, because you guys played Clovis, right?
Clovis North,
Clovis
yeah.
North. Mm-hmm. When you saw the seedings come out yesterday, because we're recording on a Monday, so yesterday, what were you kind of thinking when you saw that?
Honestly, I was a little bit surprised that we got a 13th seed. Not really understanding, what they're looking at and the criteria, things like that. But I didn't expect us to have a 13th seed. But like I said, under the circumstances, it is what it is, and we just have to live by it.
Yeah, it wasn't clear what the criteria for the bracket was. Comparing it to last year, Clayton Valley was a team kind of in your guys' spot, a low open seed. Mm-hmm. But they still got I think it was a 5 or 6 seed in state last year.
Right. And
looking at this, like a D2 team like Monroe Catholic's 11 ahead of you guys. So, has Hines talked anything about it? Like, have you guys heard anything
No,
about it?
No, we haven't spoken. Like I said, I haven't had a chance to speak with him. We had practice on Saturday. And that was the last time I, spoke with him up until Sunday evening when I got the call. Because I didn't get a chance to see the brackets. I got a call, from a few coaches, and they kind of told me, and then I went and checked it out. And so we haven't really had a chance to speak about it.
That should be a fun conversation.
Yeah.
Right.
Nothing like getting a phone call at 8 o'clock at night. It's like, hey, we're going out to Fresno on Tuesday.
Right.
So, we've talked a little bit about your basketball life a little bit. You have probably one of the most interesting basketball lives I've ever seen. Growing up playing basketball in the city, then playing a little bit of NBA ball, and then going overseas. Just talk about this how deep your roots in basketball go.
It's a journey. Being a kid from San Francisco, growing up playing high school at Balboa High School, being recognized into the San Francisco Prep Hall of Fame as well, not only Balboa Hall of Fame. Very excited about the career I've had at Balboa. Won a couple championships, won a couple MVPs of the league, Player of the Year awards, All Bay Area Award, Northern California Player of the Year awards. And so for me, not only the individual success, but the team success, kind of made everything, beautiful. And, getting the opportunity to go to college at the D1 level, that was very rewarding for me as well. Attending Cal State Fullerton for 4 years and having a really good career down there in Fullerton. And, from that point, like I tell the kids, basketball, it doesn't end. It's just more steps you have to take if you want to continue to play. So after my college days, I had an opportunity to go to some NBA camps. And against the odds, I wind up making the Indiana Pacers under a non-guaranteed contract, which a lot of times in basketball, a lot of people really don't understand how the business part of it works, which is very interesting. They just kind of see, okay, either you're on the NBA team or you're not, or you're an NBA player or you're not, or whatever the circumstances are. But for me, growing up, the odds were against me, just like now. It's very difficult for anyone to make an NBA team. It's not easy. But luckily I made it, and I had a brief stint with the Indiana Pacers, something that I'll always remember. And just like anything else, after I was let go from them, I wind up playing in the Continental Basketball League, which is the CBA now, which is called the G League now.
Right.
Which is players who are currently trying to work their way back up to the NBA rather than go overseas first. So I wound up doing that, and it was very interesting. It was very enlightening. Had an opportunity to meet a lot of different coaches throughout the CBA, a lot of different players who now you guys may recognize some of them on TV. For example, Tim Legler was a teammate of mine. Leon Wood, who's one of the top NBA refs, he's also a ref. He wound up going to Cal State Fullerton, and he was also a CBA teammate of mine. It's just so many names as we talk this that I come across, and players that I meet through my journey in the CBA, which I'll never forget, and and I use those connections to this day. Guys who I want to get in contact with, coaches who I want to get in contact with as well. So very interesting journey, and from that point on, decided to go over to Europe. Real briefly spent 14 years in Europe, 4 years in Belgium, 4 years in Germany, and played in Venezuela.
You say really briefly 14 years?
Real briefly.
I'll make sure I heard that right. I was like, wait a second.
But I don't want to bore you guys with all the stories. That's why I said briefly.
No, please bore us. Trust me.
It's just so many stories, to have, playing in these countries, so many memories that I have. Like I said, I played in Belgium and Germany, played in Venezuela, played in Greece, played in the Philippines, played in New Zealand. So all of these countries, it just brings back memories of the good times that I had over there, not only in basketball, but just meeting so many different people and, developing so many different types of relationships with people over there that I constantly, continuously, talk to them now. So it's just been an interesting journey for me. It's been a long one, but very rewarding. And, it's something that I wouldn't change, for the world.
What are your thoughts on, from your very brief 14-year stint around the world, what are your thoughts on just like the international game? Because I think a lot of people here, I think nowadays basketball is known as a lot more global than it was probably 10, 20 years ago.
Yes.
I remember growing up, like I used to live in the Philippines every summer, and we would watch a lot of the PBA games. It was kind of cool you played in the Philippines.
Yes. Played up for San Miguel Beer.
Really?
Yeah, played for San Miguel.
That was my family's favorite team.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Yeah. Playing for San Miguel Beer.
Awesome. See, if I should know that. I could have worn my San Miguel shirt. That would have been so
San Miguel
epic.
Beer.
That would have been so epic. But of all the countries you played in, like, what was your favorite? Do you have a favorite country?
I don't have a favorite. They were all different. I had a good time. I think because I was in Germany and Belgium the longest, I enjoyed over there quite a bit. Met a lot of different people. But there were countries that I went for a year or so, and I enjoyed being over there. So I think when you go over to Europe, the one thing you have to understand is, depending on what city that you're in, it will determine how much you enjoy being over there. A lot of guys that I know from the States that I grew up with and played basketball, they get homesick. They get to these cities where, they just can't take it. It's boring. There's nothing to do. And the lifestyle is just not for them.
It's a lot slower.
Yeah, a lot slower. So, one thing I will say in all these countries that I was fortunate enough to be in some good cities. Where the outside life of basketball was really good. That once my family came over, we can do some things rather than just sit around the apartment and things like that. So I've been fortunate enough to play in some really good countries, and I had a lot of great time.
I was going to follow with that. And favorite country and why it was the Philippines, but but I want to follow with that said, like your thoughts on the international game now.
Yes.
Because I think people it's a lot more, because of social media and the internet, it's a lot more, there's a better spotlight, there's a lot more engagement with the overseas game. Just get your thoughts on the growth of it. I remember Claire, a couple years ago, I think, it was Nikola Jokic was saying, they were asking what they thought about the crowds, and he was, I played in Serbia, and you see the crowds in Serbia, and it's like, it's like an indoor, it's almost like a soccer match, just like condensed. And I'm kind of curious, like, what was like for you kind of playing overseas and like on the court at least?
Got you. Well, like I tell people today, when I played overseas, I've always said that the overseas players were much more fundamentally sound than American players. And I saw it coming. Anyone who played overseas 15, 20, 25 years ago, they saw the talent of European players that was coming. It was just a matter of them continuously to grow. And they were more intrigued on NBA basketball. The more Americans that came over there, the more they were able to pick up from their games and everything. And they just kind of took what they already had and kind of mastered it as well and just kept developing. There was a story one time when I played over in Germany, and we had an all-star game. And right before the all-star game, they said, okay, we have an under 15 U team, German team, that'll be playing before you guys, and they want to showcase a player.
Oh, cool.
Now, this player I had never heard of before, and they said this player is a 7-footer who shoots threes like a guard, handles the ball like a guard. So, coming from the States, we didn't have that growing up.
Yeah.
We didn't know 7-footers
At 15.
can shoot. Well, not only 15, but just period. 7-footers at that time, they were all in the paint.
Yeah, the only one who could
big.
shoot. The only one who could shoot was Moot Bull because of
Exactly.
John Nelson.
Right.
Exactly. And I have a story with him as well. When I was in camp with the
I
Golden
can't
State
wait for
Warriors. So at this time, we're sitting there and we're waiting for the under U15 team from Germany to come out because they were talking about this kid who was like going to be all world, 7 feet tall, shoot threes. And we saying to ourselves, man, can't no 7-footer shoot threes. Because that's not what we're used to seeing.
Right,
Anybody
right,
7 feet,
right.
you got to go to the paint, post up.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're sitting there, and the next thing you know, this kid comes walking out, and we look at him, and we said, wow. And guess who this kid was?
Arvidas Sabonis.
Dirk Nowinski. German kid out of Germany.
Heard of him.
Yeah.
Heard of him.
So we're sitting there, and we're watching, as a kid walked by, we're watching him warm up, me and several other Americans, and we're watching this kid, and he's shooting threes, and we're just like in awe.
Right.
We're saying, wow. And then he started playing and he started handling the ball. And we're saying, wow, 7-footers can do this? So right then and there, my mind shifted that, okay, basketball's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Not only coming to the States, but the fact that 7-footers can shoot, and it's just going to get over here, and then everybody's going to start picking that up. So back then, that was the first time I had an opportunity to say, okay, basketball's coming. So the European basketball players were always good to me. The one thing about them, they're very fundamentally sound. They can shoot, they can run the floor, and they can pass. And that was something and they played unselfish. So for me, playing at that time, it wasn't players who are good as the players now, but they just kept developing. They just kept developing, and they caught up. And, what I'm seeing today, or what we're seeing today, is nothing that I didn't expect.
When you start watching Dirk I'm kind of curious. Watching Dirk on TV, and everyone's like so enamored. It's especially early on, like, oh my god, this guy coming through, and the way his career trajectory kind of went. When you watch it, if you ever watch his games, I'm assuming you probably caught a couple of them. Were you like surprised at all at the way
here in the States?
once he came
No,
to
I
Dallas?
wasn't. I wasn't surprised. The only thing that I thought he would have a problem early on is the physicality.
Right.
Of it.
Well, especially then.
Exactly,
Right.
back then, as a kid coming over from Germany, because he didn't go to college.
Right.
He came from Germany
Right.
to America to play basketball.
Right.
So in my mind, back then it was all about physicality. The way we grew up, it was physicality. So that was the only thing that I was worried about. But skill-wise, shooting-wise, I had no issues that he would develop that over here and play the same way. And then once he got the NBA game, got bigger, got stronger, understood how to use his body, how to, get the fouls called in his favor and things like that. He just took off and he just dominated. But I wasn't surprised at all. I used to tell some of my friends, I saw him when he was 15 years old. And then what he's doing now is what he did back then. He's just older now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
A little bit bigger.
A little bit bigger. So, and he was like, wow. So I wasn't surprised on what he did in the NBA because I knew it was going to be difficult for players to guard him at 7 feet tall because most 7-footers are used to guarding guys in the paint. So now all the centers had to go out on the perimeter, and that was going to be an adjustment for them, and that's why it was difficult. And he used that to his advantage.
Oh yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about. And basketball is just, for me, it's just a game of IQ and understanding what you're good at and what you need to stay away from. And he understood. I'm not a post-up player. So why go to the post? Even though people said I'm 7 feet. No, I'm one of the best shooters in the world. So I'm going to take that and use that to my advantage. A 7-footer who can shoot threes. So he just used his brain rather than saying, letting someone push him down to the paint and say, you have to post up because you're 7 feet tall. No, he just used this and it gained him an advantage and made him who he is today.
I mean, he's just one of the.
Can we talk about the fact that he got to see Dirk Nowitzki at 15?
I mean, hey, Dirk was
Like,
great.
that's like such a story.
Yeah.
Dirk was great.
Right?
They ran into a little 8-seed Warriors team.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey,
Yeah.
listen, Dirk still got a ring in the end of the day. Still got a ring. Probably gonna be in the Hall of Fame. I mean,
Oh, no doubt. Oh,
you know what I'm
he's
saying? Like,
going to the Hall of
Oh,
Fame.
absolutely.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But it's amazing that you saw him at 15.
Yes.
It was funny when you were telling that story. I'm like, the way you were alluding to it, I'm just like, if this isn't Dirk, I'm gonna be mad.
Right.
Like,
Man.
this sounds like Dirk.
Right.
And I said Sabonis.
Let's go.
No, I didn't get a chance to see Venus Sabonis play over there at the time. There were some other European players, I can't remember their names, who were coming. I think Tony Kukoc was right on the rise
Really?
as well.
That's cool.
And he was
Kukoc.
coming
That's
as
cool.
well.
Kukoc.
The one who sadly passed away in the car crash.
Petrovic.
Yeah,
Petrovic.
Drazen Petrovic.
And that was actually in Germany. When he passed away, he was on the German Autobahn.
It's
He was on the German Autobahn with some friends coming home, and,
He's like-
and that's when it happened.
like one of the greatest Nets of all time.
I
Like,
know.
yes, anyone.
Oh yeah, no, he was
Trying to
phenomenal.
say.
So I saw the fact that the European players were coming. You know, the more they developed, the more because the one thing that I noticed that they were doing, they asked a lot of questions. Even when I went over there, you know, the players on my team was always asking questions. So I knew they were curious of what it was like to play in the States. So from that point on, I knew they were just going to continue to do their homework and study basketball more and more and more. And it was just going to catch up at some point, and they were going to come over here, and they've done an excellent job. I mean, European basketball is great.
It's funny because about the 2000s was when like global basketball really grew up, and like it really wasn't put on stage how much that gap shrunk in basketball until Puerto Rico beat the U.S. in the Olympics.
Right.
So and then now the European nations are kind of running it, and so to say, like
I think the coolest part, and I know I say this coming from a soccer background, is like a lot of people think when people think of soccer, they think, oh, it's the world sport, and like to me, I'm just like, well, basketball's right there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really
It is.
1A, 1B at this point. When you think about it, right? Like
Yes, definitely now.
a lot of players.
Oh,
you know,
definitely now.
A lot of players in the NBA, a lot of European players, and they also played soccer growing up. You know, and even vice versa. Some soccer players played basketball growing up. And I think it's really kind of cool from not just from the sports perspective, from the cultural perspective too, right?
Oh,
'Cause
absolutely.
Yeah.
both cultures are very similar in how they operate, and I think it's really cool seeing how it's come up.
No,
If you-
basketball has definitely grown.
if you take the
worldwide.
top 10 players from today's game, probably about at least half of them are European or from out of the States.
Of course, yeah.
That's just course.
Ginobili, Dirk.
You know, if you consider
Lucas
Canada
and
is
Canada too. Hey, Canada's risen really
Canada,
well too now.
You know, Canada. No doubt. I mean, it's definitely European players have definitely come over here and carved their niche as some of the best players in the world.
Yeah.
I just think still on an average, American players we have more better American players on an average. But they're coming in next 5 or 10 years. Who knows? I mean, even more are coming.
How close is that gap, do you think?
I think it's really close. Before, the only time I saw where they hadn't had an opportunity to catch up to us is during the Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Charles Barkley, and Olympic team.
The Dream Team?
Yeah.
The Dream Team. They were still behind us. They couldn't. They
Right.
wasn't even close. Now, I'd say, if anything, before back then, I'd say it was 10-0 us.
Yeah.
10-0 us
Right,
when
right.
the Dream Team. But now, I'd say it's a 10-8.
Okay.
I'd say it's a 10-8 right now.
Yeah.
So that's how
That
quickly.
makes it very interesting.
That's how quickly they've
Right.
caught up. If you understand what I'm saying.
yeah.
And because back then it was just still 10-0.
Right.
I don't care. You know, nobody was messing with those guys. From
Right.
Europe. They wasn't even coming close. But then, like I said, fast forward 10, 15 years later, I'd say it's about a 10-8 right now.
It's almost like Space Jam. But like we were like the Monstars.
Yeah, it's about a 10-8. So they're coming. They're coming.
What does that do with that said? Like, what do you think that does for like American players coming up? Because I mean, think about it. It's I hooped in America. I'm better than you, quote unquote, right? And now it's like, well, you got cats from France. You know, we see him with Wemby, right? You got cats, Dirk and Luca and all these guys coming across. How do you feel? Does it put more pressure on the American players? Do you think?
I think it just heightens their work ethic.
Okay.
Now American players have to say, well, perhaps I'm not as good as I thought I was. And so now I have to work 2 or 3 times even harder now, and not only rely on my talent, but, my work ethic has to be the reason why it gets me through, because European players always work hard.
Right.
The one thing I know about them is they work really extremely hard over there. And so as American players, it's just kind of one of those things to where I can't take it for granted anymore. And if this is something that I seriously want to do, I have to commit and dedicate myself to it even more now than before. And that's all it does. It just heightens the work ethic up now for American players to understand that I got to sharpen my skills. I got to stay on top of things, because if not, I can easily be replaced. Okay. Back then, it was like just me, American players. We're not worried about anybody else but American players. Right. Now you still have to worry about other American players, but now you have to worry about the European players as well. So it's tough. It's very difficult, and it's going to get even more difficult. Even for guys coming out of high school getting scholarships, it's even difficult because college coaches no longer want high school kids. They want kids from the transfer portal.
Yeah,
that's already been in college, who are developed and ready to go, rather than taking kids out of high school, giving them scholarships. So it's even harder for kids in high school just to get a scholarship now.
Yeah, the St. John's coach came out and said this recently too.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
most coaches, they don't want high school kids. You have to be a 5-star type of player these days in high school, 4 or 5-star. For a big-time college to really want you and want to recruit you. If not, they can find, for example, what's the guy the Warriors, I'm not the Warriors, but the Lakers have, they just traded, but he came back to them.
Oh, Dalton
Connect. He was on a smaller school at one point before he got picked up at Tennessee. You know what I mean? And so now it's kind of like, no, I can get a guy from another school to come over to my university rather than get a guy out of high school that's more developed and more polished. Right. And so it hurts high school kids now because of this new transfer portal rule.
What's that? I guess now as you kind of you start you have your head coaching career here. What's that conversation like? Because I think it's interesting. A lot of high school juniors, high school seniors, they all want to play college. High school players in general, they all want to play college ball. But now with the way the business of it is, with the big time schools, they're going after transfer players.
Right.
Do you think it emphasizes junior college a little bit more? It's like, hey, maybe you go play at Los Medanos, maybe go play at Las Pacific, maybe go play JUCO somewhere like.
Yes, most definitely. And the one thing I am with kids on my team is that I'm raw and uncut, and I'm honest with them. And
we haven't noticed.
and I tell them, and because I know what it's like to get recruited and what college coaches are looking at, I'm saying if you guys are not 100, not 99, not 98, not 97, 100 committed to getting better and being the best you can be, don't even think about a college coach looking at you. It's not even going to happen at all. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so the kids today have so many different distractions, and they don't quite understand how difficult it is, and they don't understand the level of commitment that you have to have, and sacrifice. They don't understand sacrifice. And so it's always going to be hard on today's kids because they don't quite understand it. It's going to take that one kid to really get it and to set itself apart from the other kids until they actually see that. But, basketball is not done. I always tell them there's always somewhere to play if you truly enjoy and love the game. Junior colleges are right there for you now. You can go there and develop for a couple of years, and get better and just be patient. And so patience to me is one of the biggest things that these kids don't have. Everyone wants instant success. No one wants to be patient and say, all right, I'm going to stick with it, wait 3-4 more years playing basketball, and maybe my body is developed, my game is developed, and I'll have an opportunity to play at another level, a higher level.
I feel like social media plays a big role in that sense of instant gratification, is because all of us, we all see the highs of everyone's career, right? You don't see the in between. And I remember when I coached Logan, I told the kids they saw all the big time football players really doing it, the guys getting recruited, the guys getting drafted, et cetera, right? And I told them but you don't see everything before that.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
How do you manage that with your boys? Well, better question. What's it like coaching for you? You coming from we all come from different generations of playing ball in our respective sports, right? You came from a very tougher generation, considering how physical the game was, considering that, you didn't have, recruiting-wise, you had to send tapes. Right. So a VHS tape, by the way, in case you don't know. It's this big rectangle thing.
Right, exactly.
What's it like coaching now and kind of changing a mindset to how you were coached compared to what works for the boys now?
It's challenging. One thing about it is very challenging trying to reach the kids today because of, like you said, social media and them having an opportunity to put their mixtapes out and tapes out and things like that, only showing the good part
Right.
of what they're doing. But I try to bring them down to earth and kind of let them know that, trust me, coaches, they don't pay any attention to those tapes. They're going to come see you in person and see everything about you in basketball. Not only a basketball game, because they're going to watch your body language. They're going to watch how you interact with your teammates. They're going to watch, how you interact with your coach. They're looking at every little thing. Everything you do is under a microscope, when these coaches come watch you. So it's real hard to really get to these kids because they don't quite understand that magnitude of it. They just, oh, okay, I'm first team all league, or I got my tape out and I'm playing on this AAU team and they're showing some good highlights of me. But I tell them it's way more than that. And so once you understand that and you get rid of those things and you understand all the little things that's going to help you get that opportunity to play at the next level, you'll have a chance. But right now you will never have a chance if those are the things that you're living off of. And it's challenging, and like I said, most times and everything, it's only going to be maybe one kid that you probably reach.
Yeah.
Because the odds are once again, just like the odds of making the NBA, those odds are pretty much the same right now of getting a Division I basketball scholarship. And it's going to take that special person that sacrifice and understands, that I have to be different. I have to set myself apart from everything else to get that opportunity. So it's challenging.
A little bit into your NBA career now. So you briefly played with the Pacers. You mentioned camps with other NBA teams. Were you on that Reggie Miller Pacers team?
Yes.
What was it like just playing
We need a Reggie story.
So let me give you guys. So firsthand, before that, playing at Cal State Fullerton, which is down in Southern California.
Right.
We played UCLA.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So Reggie was a year older than me. So it was my junior year. It was his senior year. We played UCLA at Poly Pavilion. And I hate to say this on live, but we played a game against Reggie. Reggie was also known as a cocky, arrogant type of player back then. You guys know that. So there was a incident to where a shot was taken. I fell on the ground, and Reggie Miller attempted to spit on me. Yes, he attempted to spit on me.
Okay.
Yeah. So. Things got kind of not crazy, but face to face and everything with the team and all that kind of stuff that typically goes on back then.
Typical 80s basketball.
Exactly. That was nothing back then. So I had already knew Reggie before that, and so he had a younger sister named Tammy Miller who played volleyball at Cal State Fullerton.
Oh, okay.
So I knew the Miller family coming up. Right. I knew Cheryl. I knew Reggie. They had another brother who played for the Angels at that time. Older brother who played for the California Angels in baseball as well. So the Miller family was well known in Southern California, coming out of Riverside. So that was just a quick story with Reggie and I when we played UCLA back then. Now fast forward to the Pacers. Obviously, when Reggie left as a senior, got drafted by the Pacers. Right. His first year there, he played his first year there. Fast forward the following year is when I went to camp with the Pacers. So that was his second year and my first year there. And so we had already known each other, from college days and things like that. But once I got down there to Indiana, everything was cool between us. I had an opportunity to learn from him, watch him, and study from him the way he played and everything. So everything was good back then. I had to guard him a lot in practice, chase him around screens. And obviously, if you know 80s basketball, guys was hitting you off of screens.
It wasn't just a screen.
No, it wasn't no screen. You couldn't come through the middle. You couldn't come through the middle. And Reggie was an expert on how to use the screens and how to manipulate the players and how to get them to go in their one direction, going in the other. And he was so wiry at that time, and he just constantly kept moving and everything. So you chase him around screens. So that opened my eyes to what it was like playing against a player like Reggie Miller at that time. So, everything was fine between us at that time. There were several guys down there. Some names I don't know if you guys would know. Chuck Person.
Yep.
Okay.
Rick Smits.
Oh,
Scott Skiles was there at the time. Vern Fleming. heard with Wayman Tisdale during that time. So it was a very eye-opening opportunity for me to go down there and get that opportunity to be around these guys and see what it's like to be around professional guys and just live that life, for a moment and things like that. So it was fun. After that, just going to different other teams, camps. Went to camp with Golden State. Had an opportunity to be down there with Run TMC.
What was that like being
fun?
for
I
the
knew Tim
hometown
Hardaway.
team?
Tim Hardaway, like I said, him and I were really cool. And the fact that it was in the Bay Area, being from San Francisco, it was a Bay Area team. We used to hold training camps at Laney College and things like that. And that's when I met Manu Bow. That was my first time meeting Manu Bow with the Golden State Warriors. Yeah. So had an interesting story with him. Not bad, very good. We had a preseason game with Golden State in Texas, El Paso, because that's where Tim Hardaway went to school.
Right.
So a lot of times, NBA teams like to go back out where, some players they draft and play at their college, just to showcase them. So we went out to Texas, El Paso, and I remember us checking into the hotel, and I remember Manu Bow said, "Hey, young fella, we gonna go get something to eat."
What's the voice?
Yeah, you have to with Manu Bow. You have to have the voice. Young fella, we go get something to eat. And so I said, "Okay, Newt." We call him Newt back then. All right, Newt. He said, "Meet me down in the lobby." I said, "Okay." So I gets down to the lobby, and I'm waiting, and I'm looking at my phone. I'm like, "Where's my Newt at?" 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes later, he calls me. He calls the front desk. They say, Mr. Bowles said, could you get on the elevator and come to the top floor?" I said, "Okay." So I got back on the elevator, went to the top floor, and as soon as it was the top floor of a hotel in Texas, El Paso, I got off, and they had a whole bunch of tables set out there, and it was just me and him. They had wine set up for us, and so Manu Bow and I, we sitting on top of the roof and we're eating, right? And he said, "Are you hungry?" I'm like, "Yeah." Next thing you know, everybody started bringing all-you-can-eat ribs out. So Manu Bow and I are sitting on top of the roof in Texas, El Paso, drinking wine, laughing, and eating all-you-can-eat ribs.
That's a hell of a story.
All-you-can-eat ribs. You know what I mean? And so, that's one of the things I picked up from Manu at that time. But he's just a funny guy, man. We had a lot of fun going to camp with Golden State and just being around those guys, Tim Hardaway, Mitch Richmond, Chris Mullin. Had a chance to room with Winston Garland, which is Darius Garland's dad.
Yeah.
Winston Garland at the time was with Golden State. Him and I roomed together on the road, during preseason and things like that. So I had a chance to meet him. Matter of fact, I saw him last week because I went to the NBA All-Star practice.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, my son had tickets, so I wound up going in there, and I got to the front, and I seen Winston sitting in the corner because he was watching Darius warm up.
Right.
So I had a chance to holler at him. It's been a long time since I've seen him. Just had a chance to see a whole bunch of different guys, who I played with over the years and made, some friendships with. Met a guy named Chip England. Chip England is the shooting coach now with the OKC Thunder.
Okay.
He's been the shooting coach for the San Antonio Spurs for many years in the Ginobili, Duncan, Parker days when they won a championship. Chip and I were teammates with the San Jose Jammers of the CBA when I played out there in San Jose.
Okay.
Yeah, Chip was he was on one guard, he was on one wing, I was on another wing. And our point guard, I'm going to throw this name at you guys, Pearl Washington. Does that name ring a bell?
Yeah.
Pearl Washington back in the day, New York City legend out of Syracuse.
Yep.
Legends. New York City legend. So he's running the point. You got Chip on one wing, got me on another wing. So Chip and I, we remained tight, and I saw him there. We exchanged numbers again, and he told me, whenever they come to town, make sure I hit them up and things like that. So it's just good seeing guys from back in the day when you played. And the one thing about basketball that I've noticed, guys don't forget you.
Right.
Even if you don't see them 10, 15 years later, once you put that stamp on them in basketball, they don't ever forget you.
Right.
They may not be in contact with you or see you for years, but when they see you, they remember. I remember all the players I played against back in the day in the CBA, all the teams, all the coaches and things like that, because there's a stamp that just stays with you your whole life.
Right.
So, the memories last forever, and it's just a good opportunity for me just to experience basketball.
It's definitely such a sports thing because I remember about the 3 years I coached, just running into I went to old teammates. One of my old teammates, he became our varsity OC, so it's kind of like such a reunion for him and I. And then some of the other coaches I seen, it's the whole idea of you mentioned once you make a stamp with people,
Yeah.
like, they never forget you.
They never forget you.
Some of my friends became referees, so that was
Yeah.
a fun shouting match.
Yeah. Exactly.
That actually,
Yeah.
it's funny because like when you have all teammates that became refs, it just makes the shouting matches a lot more fun. 'Cause,
Right.
Like, the outsider was like, oh my god, he's going off on ref, and you're just like talking the most like BS to his ref the entire time.
Of course.
But like you both are boys at the end. It's funny.
Oh yeah, I see refs today, and you know, when they're refereeing summer leagues and things like that, I see them, and they like, Richie, be quiet before I call a tech on you. You know what I mean? So you know, they're funny and everything. So you know, it's just a relationship that
Right,
you have,
right.
And that's the one thing about basketball. You know, no matter what you do in it, you know, enjoy the moment, but understand, you know, it's gonna live with you forever. You know, you're gonna have memories forever.
Right.
And it's a wonderful thing.
You've shifted kind of now into a coaching career for the
Yeah.
past decade and a half.
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
What's that kind of been like for you, going from player to coach? And was there anything you've taken from past coaches that you've kind of implemented in your
Oh, of
coaching?
course. The one thing that I've always done in my life, even as a basketball player, I've always learned from other players. You know, I never got to the point to where I felt I knew everything, even as a player. You know, I watched players, I studied players, I studied moves, you know, where I pick up something from here, pick up something from there. And like I said, transfer that over to coaching. You know, even today, I'm still picking up things from coaches, little things. You know, the littlest things turn out to be the biggest things in coaching. And so I've learned a lot from a lot of different coaches. You know, coming up, been coached by some Hall of Famers, George Carl, Eric Musselman,
Decent coaches.
Dr. Jack Ramsey, who passed away, who was down in Indiana. And just, you know, my college coaches, you know, Coach George McCorn, who was under Jerry Tarkanian for many years. You know, Donnie Daniels, who coached over at the University of Utah for many years. So I've just been around some good coaches, and I've taken something from each one of them and just tried to implement on what I say to kids and how I, you know, teach kids and things like that. So it's been fun. You know, and that's the one thing I try to tell kids today is always learn from somebody. Even today, watch players, study players. You know, study their mannerism. You know, study their body language. You know, study how they get their shot off, when they get their shot off. You know, things like that that's going to help you just become a better player. And so I'm still learning from coaches just to help me become a better coach. Because you know, you never get too big to not, you know, ask somebody for help.
You mentioned learning from other coaches. What's the biggest thing you learned from John Hines?
Honestly, you know, people don't understand that, you know, basketball, it has his X and O's, and then it has his, you have coaches who are able to reach players, you know, to get them to do what you want them to do. And then you have coaches who are very good at drawing up plays and X and O's and that. The one thing I learned about Coach Hines is that he's a very good X and O's type of coach. He likes to do a lot of X and O's.
I think we brought him on the podcast. He talked about X and O's for about a half hour.
Right, exactly. So he loves doing his X and O's, which is nothing wrong with that at all. And so those are the things that I've learned from him. And the fact that he's very detailed at times, and he's passionate about the game. You know, there's not a lot of
We haven't noticed that part either.
There's not a lot of coaches who are passionate. I think some coaches are just there just to be in that spot.
Right.
You know, and even youth coaches and that coming up. But, you know, I see a lot of high school coaches, and I'm saying to myself, do they really want to coach, or are they just there, you know, for a certain kind of reason? But, you know, Coach Hines, I've been around him for a long time. You know, and I watch his mannerism, and I can tell he's very passionate about the game, and he wants things to go well. You know, and then you have other coaches who understand players and understand how to reach players and know how to push players' buttons to get them to do certain things. And so, you know, once again, you learn from every coach. You know, you pick up things from different types of coaches. You know, whether it's X and O's, you know, whether it's understanding who you can say something to and how to push their buttons to get them to get the maximum out of their potential and things like that. And so, you know, those are some of the things that, as I've been here over the last several years, just been watch Coach Hines do and study from that.
Has it kind of helped you in your first year of coaching at the varsity level to kind of have him kind of as one of your assistants this year? Like, how has that kind of helped you kind of eat? Is it kind of
Easy.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, actually, yes, it has. And only because, he's been doing it for so long. As far as basketball, I think I've been around basketball for so long.
Right.
And I've been around coaching, kids at certain levels, high school levels, college levels, professional levels and things like that. So for me, that part was easy. It's just, like you said, just having them around, getting some knowledge and recommendations on certain things from him has kind of made it a lot easier to where I don't have to try to, figure things out on my own. And once again, you never get too big to where you can't ask for help.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so for me, I have no problem with it. And I know he's passionate. I know this is a difficult time for him.
I feel like there's a theme there with this.
I know this is difficult for him
Right.
when you're around something for so long. And it's tough. It's difficult. And, major props to him. Because at some point there's another chapter. Everything has a
Right.
chapter. There's chapters. And, you just go from chapter to chapter to chapter.
What's it like for you as you go into this? I know, you both the head coach in this. He was co-head coaches, if I have it right.
Go ahead, Coach.
What's it like for you kind of taking over this program after a guy who's kind of really built it up? I mean, you look at when he started this back in 07?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
When he started and how he really built up this program.
Right, of course.
What's it like for you kind of taking it over, but also at the same time having him kind of in a way, kind of have him kind of give you the tour of the house, so to say.
Right. No, once again, I definitely appreciate it. I'm always appreciative to everything. For me, I just want to just make sure we continue to have the success and not go backwards, but to continue to go forward.
Right.
For me, that's the biggest thing. And so, John has been really good and, just kind of let me know that, those are some of the things that he wants. He wants the program to continue to stay on a high note. And that's, I take a lot of pride in that. I have a lot of pride. And so that's one of my goals is to make sure we stay on the up instead of going backwards. So for me, I have no problem because I'm positive. I'm confident that, everything that I've known in basketball, that I continue to get these kids and get this program to stay at the level it's at.
Coming into the season a little bit, it was a great first year for you.
Yeah.
You guys lost two games, I
feel
think.
like great's an understatement.
You lost 2 games and won over 20, I think.
Right.
You're obviously in state. What has this first season kind of been like for you, just to be able to really run things as a head coach?
Honestly, I didn't know what to expect this year. And what I mean by that, not saying that I didn't think we would be successful, because obviously I'm very confident, and I knew the kids who were here, and I knew what was coming back, and I knew we can have some type of success. As the year went on, I was quite surprised on some of the games that we played, because, number one, our size. I thought coming into this year our size would be an issue. So we had to figure out a way, how can we compensate for that and still, get out there and play competitive basketball. But as the year was going on, I was watching the players and I understood that, okay, we may not be size in height, but we got size in heart. And so that was one of the things that I emphasized with the kids is that, you can't grow. You're not going to grow no more probably. So it's not like you're not going to grow 6'4", 6'5" overnight. So let's keep this growing. And so I was quite surprised, but as we got on the road, I was more and more confident that we can go into any game and win any game we had. And so it's been a wonderful season. And I want the kids, no matter, when it ends, whenever that is, I want the kids to understand there's still a special year, and you can take something away from this and you go remember this 10, 15 years down the line, no matter what you do. So, enjoy the moment, but understand as long as you have a chance, try to continue to go as far as you can.
There's one tradition, you talked about running this program with pride, especially carrying on traditions. There's one tradition you carried on, which was the winless, or the undefeated league.
There you go.
Undefeated league.
Right.
But the league games this year were a little bit more tighter than years past. Was there one team that you thought really could have upended that streak?
I think this year was different, and I say this because of this. It was difficult for us because we had to play non-league games, and then we had to come back and play a league game.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean?
Instead of having a separate non-conference.
Exactly.
Yeah, because you played like the second game of the year.
Right. So
Yeah.
for the players, that mindset was a lot different. It hasn't been like this in the previous years.
Right.
You play preseason and then you just go through a easy league. So I think it was more difficult this year for us as, playing against teams because teams were obviously getting up for us. And mentality-wise, it was kind of like, okay, we have to go from here. Now we have to come here and try to turn it back up. And so, we had a couple games this year that could have been scary for us. But because we were tested in preseason so much, I think that mentality helped us prevail, with that mindset of not wanting to lose and just figuring out a way just to win the game. It wasn't about, beating them by 20, 30, and 40. It was just, okay, let's get this game. Let's win this game.
Right.
Because we understand it was difficult. It was something that was unusual to go play preseason games and then come back and play league games and then go back and play preseason games. So it's very unusual for the kids. And I don't know if they really understood the magnitude of that, but I know as a player, sometimes it's tough and challenging mentally to get yourself up, against certain teams.
Yeah. Kind of like trap games.
Exactly. So I think that was the most difficult part. But like I said, because of the way we were tested in preseason and things like that, they just developed that not refuse to lose mentality, and it just helped us throughout the season. So, that made me proud, and I let them know that it's not the same as before. So you guys once again did something that hasn't been done in a long time, and so be proud of that as well.
I think the biggest example of, like you talked about, getting on that high against a non-league team and then having to come back was the back-to-back, and you guys played Grant and MLK and come back again to play Heritage the next night. And Heritage was, I remember talking to Coach Carter, Heritage was coming to that game like with insane amount of confidence.
Right.
And, you guys kind of struggled in the fourth quarter against Grant. It was really a clash of, like, two teams kind of meeting in the middle. So it was that it kind of brought the rivalry back of Liberty Heritage. What did you kind of take away from that first game?
Obviously, I love rivalries. To me, rivalries are something that's needed in basketball. And for me, I just love being in those trenches, games that are like that, because it actually shows me, what we're made of, and it shows me what players and what they're made of. So, for Brentwood basketball, I thought it was good. I just think, like I said, for us, we were just caught in a situation to where, we were put in a difficult situation. And so, but once again, because of the strong mentality our kids had, we were able to go out there and get the win. And it was tough. And like I said, every team we play in our league is going to be up for us.
Oh, yeah. I think Freedom got
right. Exactly. They're going to be up from us. But obviously, that's what I like, because that's basketball.
Right.
That's the fun part of basketball. I don't want to win by 30, 40 points all the time.
It's different when you're playing against a crowd, when the crowd's going back and forth.
I love that. I love the crowd energy, and I love to see my players react to that and respond to that. So, those are the things that I enjoy. And I hope, it continue. I want it to be a rivalry with Heritage. I want Freedom to be here. I want the games to be packed.
Right.
Because when I went to that first Heritage game, I'm like, man, I haven't seen this in a basketball game since I was in high school. So it was just really great to see.
Yeah, what's it like seeing, going against, specifically against like Heritage and Freedom, kind of seeing those programs really start to bounce back the way they are? I mean, Heritage playoff team this year, Freedom in their first year under Drew, like they really kind of showed their promise and what they're trying to, what he's trying to rebuild there. Just having them kind of really back and fold, how big is that?
I think it's good for basketball. Obviously, there are a lot of kids out here in Brentwood, and I don't know if there's a really separation of talent. I just think there's a difference in culture and commitment. And as long as you stay committed and the culture is right, you're going to always, give yourself an opportunity to be on top. I'm really impressed by what we have in the future. As good as those teams are getting, I think we're getting just as good, with our freshman team, with our JV team, as you saw what they did this year, going undefeated.
Yeah, the JV team, you have
26-0.
Yeah, you have a long licky.
Right.
You have some height coming up, too.
Exactly. So, I just look at it as, it's good what they're doing, but I still, I'm going to remain that, we'll always remain on top right now because of the culture and the commitment, from coaching to make sure we get these kids to understand how to play the game the right way.
If I'm a varsity player and I saw JV go 26-0, I'm gonna be pissed.
Right,
Considering-
exactly.
Let me ask you something. I've kind of been wondering. I was kind of wondering this. We were at that game against Lincoln at the
Clayton Valley.
at the Clayton Valley tournament
Uh-huh.
back in December. I remember how frustrated everyone was with that loss, just because of the way the boys played and everything,
Right.
and the way that game kind of turned out. What clicked for you guys? Because y'all went on 20 in a row.
20.
Yeah,
Yeah, 20.
Yeah, because I mean, it's not like you guys were struggling early on. Y'all were 5-1 entering that game.
Right.
That game just felt like it didn't look like a 5-1 team on that night. So from that point on, what clicked for y'all going forward? Because I mean, to rip 20 straight is no easy feat in itself.
And it was something that wasn't even talked about as far as, we just kind of looked at next game up, next team up. So after that loss, I don't remember, kids, in my opinion, just being, so deflated. We just took it as we ran across a team who we thought was really good.
Oh, yeah.
And early on, I think we missed a bunch of free throws in the first. If I remember that game, I think at halftime we was down 38-31.
You guys were
And
in
we-
at halftime.
And we missed 6 or 7 free throws.
Right.
Yeah.
So from that point on, I felt that, okay, had we made those free throws and went into the second half a little closer, kids' confidence would have stayed up and things like that. So I think it just kind of showed our youth and inexperience at that time in the second half when we got down against a really good team. And it was just difficult to bounce back. So it was one of those games we took our lumps, but it wasn't, I don't think it affected us because I think it just kind of heightened our intensity up and competitiveness up to make sure, okay, next game, next team up.
Right.
That's what we need to prepare for it. And next team up. And honestly, at one point, I didn't even realize how many games we won in a row. It was just like, it seemed like we were just playing so many games,
Right.
with our schedule. It was kind of like, I remember one point it looked like we played four or five games in 1 week. If I look on the schedule at one point. So for me, it was just kind of like, okay, next game up.
Right.
Next game up. Next game up. And then as it got further and further down, I didn't even realize how many we won in a row. But it was, like I said, it's a, I take my hat off to the kids because for them, they just wanted to play next team up. Next team up, next team up. And they wanted to win. So it was just one of those games where, like I said, Lincoln jumped out on us in the second half and we couldn't, bounce back from it. And don't get me wrong, Lincoln's a real strong team. I wouldn't be surprised if they go, really far in this
Third seed in your bracket.
Division I.
Right.
So, it wouldn't surprise me if they go far. And so that's just a testament of a good team that we played at that time.
I want to track back something because you mentioned schedule also next game up. You mentioned how this year, it was first year, really, league games were kind of sprinkled in between preseason. Is it fair to call those non-conference games preseason games at this point? Because really, it's all, to me, it feels all regular season and just non-conference games. It's just one schedule instead of traditionally your preseason non-conference schedule, and then you hop in the league.
Yeah.
How it usually after Christmas.
Right.
Do you like that idea of it? Because because at this point now, the way at least the way it did this year, it doesn't feel like a traditional preseason in that kind of sense.
Right. No, I like non-conference games. When you mix them in with league games.
Okay.
Especially for us. Being that we've won league 4 years in a row, and I think the kids sometimes get a little bored with teams in our league.
Right.
So they need to be challenged. So for me it was fine. I didn't have a complaint with it. It was just good that the kids handled it the way they did, and it just made it a little bit more difficult. But if we do it on a regular basis, I think it'd be much easier for the kids to understand that, okay, we played these games, but we still got to be mentally ready to play these games. I think with this year caught us by surprise. We had to get up for these games, and then we come back and play this game, and we're not prepared, mentally like we should be, because we figure, we're gonna win. Whether it's by 10 points, 20 points, or 30 points, we're still going to win. And that was a mentality I think our kids had. But I like it. I like if they can mix it up like that and we go non-conference league games, and then we come in the league, and then we go back out. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I like it a lot.
You guys had a unique playoff structure this year. It wasn't the do or die one game.
Right.
Win, move on, lose, you're out. You guys kind of had that second life in open division, and then so now you guys are in state, and it is do or die at this point. How do you guys you feel about your team rising up and playing against fourth seed Clovis North?
If you ask my honest opinion, it just seems strange to me because I didn't quite understand playing it open how it helped us in a sense to where you play it open, you're considered one of the top 6 teams, but you lose and you go down to D1. But there's teams in D1 are ahead of you. But
there's D2 teams.
But those teams weren't good enough to play in the open.
Right.
You understand what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like if they were good enough to get those high seeds, how come they weren't in the open? So it seemed like we got penalized for going to open and losing, opposed to going to open and saying, okay, these teams are recognized. So if they do go down to D1, let's make sure they're considered a higher seed, opposed to some of the other teams. It kind of seems strange to me how it worked out. It was opposed to where, okay, suppose we had to win D1,
right,
and then got to the championship, and obviously the 2 teams of D1 continue on,
right,
and I'm sure we would have probably got a higher seed in D1.
right. it almost should be, if you qualify for the Open, you should have protected seeds.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's what I thought it was.
Oh, welcome to the CIF and ECS, man. It's
because I said to myself, well, okay, yeah, going to Open secured us to continue on.
Right.
But if they're going to throw us at a low seed against a higher seed and have to do all this, it really didn't help us.
Right. It's I remember last year when we talked with Coach Hines, like how they got the 7th seed and like they had to play Pitt for like a 3rd straight time. And the way the seeding was, and Liberty got punished for this, that, and the other. It's really, it feels very unfair in ways. I think that there's, especially now with competitive equity and the way they want to do everything, how they manage the Open. There are definitely ways you can argue would be better for how they handle everything. I just don't feel as if they ever. There's always politics in the way. Oh well, this school is this school is that, and well, Liberty plays in the B Valley, so this and that, and it's just tired. It's just like this is to me
it's
like
tired, yeah.
Right, it's tired. It's just, to me like this is one of the best teams. Like why not respect Liberty as one of the best teams?
And
in
that's
the area?
all. Yep, exactly.
You want to find more reasons to why they're not one of the best compared to why they could be one of the best. Why they deserve to be here.
It seems like there was different criteria this year, because looking at the last year's bracket, Doherty Valley won the D1 title last year for NCS. They were a 14 seed. Clayton Valley wasn't your guys. Well, they were the 6th seed last year in Open. They were the 6th seed in state. So it just seems like something was different this year.
Yeah, exactly.
The B Val.
Exactly. And so that's why it seemed like, and like I said, you'll never hear me complain, but I do recognize when something feels a little off.
Right.
Yeah.
And that just didn't seem right to me. Going from Open and then coming to D1 and going that low.
Right.
It's like if that was the case, then what was the purpose of us going to Open? If that wasn't going to, like you said, secure us at least a top 5, top 6, 7 seed in Division 1.
Because I remember talking after the Dublin loss, I really thought you guys were going to get no lower than an 8.
Right.
And just basically,
that would have been fair.
Exactly.
That would have been fair.
Exactly.
Like if they got the 8, that would still be fair.
Because you have a team from the bracket above dropping down in state to the Division 1 bracket. If that makes sense.
Right.
Right.
So, and they kind of levels it in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of different.
If you can have protected draft picks, you can have protected seeds. I'm just saying, like I don't see.
Right.
It's just they make it so I know selecting between thousands of high school teams is not easy, and I understand that, but we talked about this before, like Open. I feel like because we have 7 divisions, 7 divisions.
7 for section, 5 for state, I think.
Okay, 7 for section.
Yeah.
Okay. So, speaking for the NCS specifically, right? Your number 1 team should be your number 1 team. They get the first round bye, and then the other 6 play against one another, right? But like the 2 seeds, like your top D1, you can see a second top D1 team, top D2, top D3, stuff like that. And then when it comes to state, you have protected seeds and all that kind of stuff from there.
Right.
It's almost like a Champions League kind of thing.
Right. Exactly.
Like why not treat it like to me that's the most straightforward thing to do.
That's it.
Why not do? I don't think we did that like that the last 2 years I've been here. So I don't see why I do that, but
Granted, this is uncharted territory for us.
Right.
But
to me, that it's just common, common sense to
Like
me.
if you,
especially when
if you're penalizing open teams, basically,
right,
it's like open teams got penalized.
if you're one of the best teams, be treated like one of the best teams.
Exactly. And if you don't, then put those teams, who you felt are high D1 teams. Why weren't they in open?
And there wasn't a clear, there was never a clear explanation for the criteria when they select. But just, like I said, just based off of last year, it's just very different from last year.
Yeah.
So
it's tough.
Have you looked at Clovis North at all? Have you done?
I watched some film on them.
How do you feel going into it?
They're a well-coached team, and I've talked to several people who I know within the basketball ramifications. And like I said, I know the coach, and I know the type of person he is, and so it's going to be really, really difficult. Especially playing them at home. When I'm sure they shoot the ball really well, and they're a 3-point shooting team. They move a lot, they pass a lot. Their ball movement, player movement is really good, and so. Our guys are just going to have to be on cue, have to be alert and make sure we capitalize on any mistakes that they make. And, we control the tempo of the game and get the shots that we want. So it's going to be difficult. I'm looking forward, but I know it's going to be difficult. But it's just another challenge.
I feel like the biggest challenge really isn't as much on the court as far as it's just getting there.
Right.
And we talked about we talked about this kind of before we started. And I'm curious. I don't know if you can talk about it. If you can talk about it on mic. But we're talking about going to Fresno on a Tuesday. Now, fine.
Granted, I mean they're going to consider Fresno NorCal. That's what it is. Can't do anything about that.
I try and figure that one out still. But with that said, getting there is going to be a challenge in itself, and I feel like that's actually the bigger challenge in the game itself.
And speaking on that, to me, that shouldn't be a challenge.
Right.
To me, that should be the last thing that we should be worried about on how, getting there. And so, like I said, I don't know what the criteria is right now, but I know on a Tuesday, hopefully, people can see that it's we have to make sure we have comfortable situation to get down there.
Right.
And if not,
because ain't nothing like driving down I-5.
Right.
Weekday.
Oh my God. Or just coming home. You got to realize, you got to come home at 9 o'clock at night, 9, 10
By the
o'clock.
time you almost 11.
Another 3 hours.
Honestly,
another 2.5, 3 hours away driving back. So, it's not the best situation, but it's something that we shouldn't have to think about.
Right.
The only thing we should be worried about is the game,
game
plans and things like that. But we'll find out more information today on
Does that
kind
of provide kind of a distraction in a sense, or the potential for one? If you think about it, 'cause, I mean, we talk about how tough they are on the court and all that stuff, but the travel lag, and I'm not saying Fresno's super far. Like I just came back from LA yesterday, so that's a much longer.
It's just during the week.
Right.
That's the problem. It's just during the week. If it was a Saturday.
Right, you got to plan for it.
Saturday, parents.
Yeah, we get up Saturday morning, drive out there, hang out there. It's much easier.
Make a weekend out of it.
Right, exactly. Right. But on a Tuesday, it's always difficult to go that far.
Right. On a Tuesday. Class and work the next day.
Kids have class the next day.
And to be fair, like if Clovis North had to come up here, it's the same argument there.
Of course.
But however,
they
probably would have the bus.
But they should have looked at teams and looked at the distance between the two all the teams that were in there. I know Cal High is going up to Intercom, but that's not far. That's an hour and a half away.
That's not terrible.
You know what I mean? That's not far. I think we have the furthest trip with the teams.
I heard the NCS is providing Cal with a private jet for that one.
I know. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, just looking at it, you guys.
We have the furthest trip on all the two teams.
But that has been kind of a theme with the NCS in general this year. Like I remember coming with the girls basketball playoffs. I cover a lot of girls teams here, and their Heritage had to go all the way to McKinleyville, which is damn near the northern border.
Now, was that during the week when they played?
It was Wednesday. Wow. It was a Wednesday game, so it was a whole day. They made a day out of it.
I remember when we interviewed Nate, the Heritage AD, because he's on the NCS Sport. He said that distance doesn't impact seeding,
which
for opening round games, I feel like it should because those games are on the Tuesday, Wednesday games.
Right.
If you get to a quarter, a semi, okay, cool. It kind of is what it. You kind of deal with it, right? Or at least like when you schedule it, okay, well, they got to go far. Let's make these games, because of the potential for distance, let's make these games close to a weekend.
Right.
Scheduling-wise and stuff like that.
Right, exactly.
It's just a lot of this year's playoff restructure was a lot about competitive equity, which is great because you have a lot more schools getting opportunities to compete in playoffs where they should have, et cetera, et cetera.
Heritage upset at 3 seed.
But on the flip side of that, it's like, okay, we're going to send you 6 hours north on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
In the middle of the week, in the middle of the school and work week.
Yeah.
So you're also asking parents to go up there.
Of course.
It's one of those things where it's like none of that seemed to be kind of like the family aspect of it or the kid aspect of it, student aspect of it seemed to be really be included in this. And it's surprising because the idea was to create this better atmosphere for the student athletes, and yet you sacrifice the student part.
And like you said, this was a big moment. This is the first time in program history they've gone to state. This is something that's to be celebrated, not stressed over.
Exactly. So, it's just another thing. But I don't know if the kids are really stressed over that part of it. I think the kids are excited. They just want to make sure, we have an opportunity to get down there and be prepared and be ready to play.
What would it mean for you guys if you guys pull this off? Like the opening round at least. What do you think it would mean for the program? You've been around the program
Well,
for a
for me,
while now,
it'll be great because of the circumstances.
Right.
Because obviously, I respect Clovis North a lot.
Right,
it's a very good team. Not only that, the travel that we have to do, in that sense alone, it'll just show, what we're made of. And like I said, win or lose, I felt our kids, we've had a great season. Nothing to put our heads down about. But at the same token, we still alive, so why don't we go in there and try to win the game?
Just to put this out there for you guys. If you guys do win, you do have the furthest travel could be to San Ramon.
Oh my God!
So
what a trip that would be.
That would almost feel like
that would be.
That'd be like a walk down the street.
Exactly. Exactly.
I would almost use that as motivation.
Right. Exactly.
Listen, you win this, we don't got to go far.
Yeah. We shouldn't have to go far anymore after that. If I'm just looking further down, what happens if we win that game against San Ramon?
But you haven't. This is a team that obviously deserves to be in state. Just how talented they are. And this team is young. You only have 2 seniors on this team.
Right.
What do you think the years to come? Where do you think the height can be years to come for this team?
Oh, I just think next year is only it can get even better. The guys coming up from the JVs, it gives them an opportunity to see, what it's like. It gives them an opportunity. Once we talk after the season to understand the work ethic that they need over the summer and things that we need from them over the summer to help us. And just the experience from guys that are coming back, it gives them a little bit more experience and maybe open up their eyes of what they need to do over the summer to get better for next year. So I think it helps us a lot, just being in this situation and not having only but 2 seniors on the squad. I think it's just going to benefit us next 2-3 years down the line.
How much do you feel this raises the bar for the program, and also for you personally, how much this raises the bar? Because you'll be going to your first full year as the head coach, like no more co-titles.
Right.
How much does this raise the bar for you and the program into next year? Just disappearance alone, regardless of what happens.
Right.
Just getting to state alone and going through this, going through the open experience and everything. What does this do for you guys?
It just heightens the goal. Over the summers, I'm gonna work harder. I'm make sure the kids work harder. And just kind of evaluate this season and kind of see, what we did wrong and what we need to do to go even further. Evaluating just teams and competition, what other teams have coming back and things like that. So it just, once again, it just makes me get back to the drawing board over the summer and just kind of reevaluate, what we've done this year.
Is there a fear of potentially raising, I would say, false expectations? Of like, okay, this is the year we win state. This is the year we have to win state and stuff like that. Or does this kind of create heavier, for lack of a better word, more heavier expectations for the program? Because you mentioned the JV team going 26-0.
Right.
There's gonna be a lot of eyes on those kids coming up to the program. The seniors leaving and how the program kind of rotates the roster. Does this create like heavier expectations kind of going forward?
I mean, honestly, I don't think so. I just think for us, it just puts us in that situation where we want to just maintain and be one of the winning programs, and just continue the success. First of all, not only in league, but just to represent outside of the league as well. I think that's one of the biggest goals. Winning the state. I don't know if that creates any pressure for the kids. Obviously, I'm sure they want to.
Great to help a story.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same token, we all know, winning the state is difficult. You have to be at the right place at the right time doing the right things. And so, only one team is going to win. Only one team is going to win. So, I don't think it creates, any other expectations other than just maintain that winning program that we've been, over these several years. And I think the kids understand that, and that's the mentality that they'll go in and we'll just, play and take each game by game. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Thank you.
Oh, anytime, man.
Appreciate it. This is great, honestly.
Yeah.
It's probably
The fact that we got a PBA reference is awesome.
I know, huh?
We got probably one of the greatest Manute Bowl stories of all
You
time.
got a Reggie Miller story?
The Reggie Miller story,
Yeah.
which, if we clip down, I'm curious where that would go.
Yeah. So, no.
It's exciting.
Cool.
Thank you so much. This is great, man.
Well, I don't know. Are you guys going down? No, huh?
I was gonna text Hein to see if he can get me on the bus.
We can
We don't
stash
even
him.
that's the thing. Yeah,
even have a
if
bus?
he can get you on the bus, then that's a good thing. That means we have a bus.
I was going to say that.
You know what I'm saying? If we can get you on the bus, that means we have a bus.
Or I think Dante's dad has offered me a couple times this year for
Steve?
a ride. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe to
We'll see.
maybe take him up on that.
Right, exactly. So we'll figure this out today in practice and see, who's driving, how we getting down there, if we can't get any vans or anything.
Yeah,
like
keep us posted if you
Just
hear
keep
anything.
us
Okay, I'll text you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because like I said, we should, and I'm gonna tell John, how come they can't make special, exceptions for today? I don't know what's the difference, and I'm still trying to figure it out.
Right.
What's the difference between getting a van at 3:00 and getting a van at 2:00?
What I would tell him.
I just don't understand that.
What I would pitch to him, and I know he knows this, if Cal can take the private jet to Sacramento, if they can get the JetX to Sacramento, then
Right.
I think
we
we're
should
good.
be able to get a van, at least 2 vans to get us down there. We took them down to Santa
Right.
Barbara, so hey.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of Press Talk Sports Live. Each and every week, we interview the local athletes and coaches here in the Brentwood Oakley area. We are presented by the Brentwood Press. Don't forget, for as low as $20 a year, you too can get a subscription to the Brentwood Press and keep in touch with everything happening in the East County area. Go to thepress.net and click on subscribe for more. Why you're blocking the camera? For head coach, current co-head coach, but next year head coach, Rich Morton, and absolute pro basketball legend, international basketball legend, Rich Morton, and One Spurs. I am Jeff Weisinger. Thank you so much for joining us. We all got to get out of here. We'll catch you on next time. Take care of one another.
Thank you guys for having me.
That was a great.
Oh, this you crazy mother.